Swadikap and good afternoon once again. Today is Thursday, May the 12th, 2022, and this is the English language summary here at the Center for COVID Situation Administration for today's weekly briefing in English. So firstly, of course, as always, thank you to Dr. Apisamai for the Thai language version. One important point that she answered a query, a question on was about the Thailand pass. Of course, as you have noticed already, we are having more relaxation. More relaxation of measures in terms of entry, in terms of the measures here, because the tide is turning. The situation is getting better in Thailand in terms of the numbers and opening up, as you all know already by now. The CCSA meeting this morning, we have CCSA meetings every day, every morning actually, leading to the general meeting once every 2 weeks. So the CCSA meeting this morning discussed these issues, and rest assured that they take all the comments and suggestions into consideration, including the issue about Thailand Pass. Of course, now there are some relaxation of some points. For example, no RT-PCR required prior to enter and things like that, as we have already briefed you. Now, in the future, of course, there might be some further changes into the Thailand Pass or the cancellation in the future. But as of now, the Thailand Pass system still remains. And then we will be considering other additional relaxation measures in due course. And according to, of course, the real situation on the ground in Thailand, which, as I mentioned, is the tide is turning. It's getting better in general, which is very good news. So firstly, I'll update on the arrival of travelers and the Thailand Pass through the Thailand Pass system. So during the 1st to the 11th of May, so the first 11 days of this month until yesterday, we have travelers who entered Thailand in an increasing number, which is good news, and we're able to handle and control any further outbreak because of our system, and then the system, the measures on the ground as well, and at the airport as well, for example. So we have 181,808 travelers entering via the quarantine exemption scheme, as you see on screen. That's the total number of travelers, 181,804, and with the quarantine exemption is 181,615, as you can see, with only a small number, 189 travelers entering with the 5-day quarantine. And of course, you know the difference that you are required to quarantine if you are not vaccinated according to our regulations. But the majority of travelers have been vaccinated and have been following all the rules and procedures prior to entering Thailand with the Thailand Pass system. The majority of international travelers come from a couple of top 10 countries. This may change for each week or each month as we begin to welcome more and more travelers into Thailand. So from the period of the 1st of May until yesterday, the May 11th, we have top travelers coming into Thailand from Singapore, India, Malaysia, UK, Australia, and the rest, as you see on screen. And happy also to see that a number of visitors from ASEAN countries, countries in our ASEAN region, topping that list, reflecting a welcome resurgence, rebound of regional tourism as well. Now, Dr. Apisamai mentioned in the Thai language version about the resumption of on-site learning for schools, Thai schools in particular, in that the Ministry of Public Health and Ministry of Education has set up the 667 COVID-19 infections control measures, in which schools are to strictly follow when resuming the on-site classes in the new academic year for Thai schools. Now, of course, the academic year for international schools is a bit different. They're about to close in June, but the Thai school calendar is different, of course. And this 667 measures involve 6 main measures. The first number 6, meaning distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, temperature check, reducing crowded areas, and sanitizing equipment that are regularly touched. And the other 6 is 6 extra measures, including following the universal prevention measures, using your own utensils in schools, that's very important, consuming freshly cooked food, registration for entering schools, self-monitoring, self-quarantine when having a high-risk infection. And another strict measure for schools are, of course, performing the Thai Stop COVID Plus evaluation and conducting small bubbles by limiting the number of children in each activities and planning school isolation. So the Ministry of Public Health has also set up plans to control the spread of the virus, particularly for schools if there is an infection in any one of the schools across the country. For the general situation, since the last time, last month, a few weeks ago, a few months ago, the numbers were quite different. And as I mentioned, we've seen a resurgence, a downturn of the number of new confirmed cases as well as the number of fatalities on a daily basis. So new confirmed case we record most recently is 8,019. You would have noticed that that's different from the around 20,000 or 30,000 plus number of daily new cases that we had earlier. Active cases now is reduced to 77,427. And the fatalities, very good news is that we have 59 fatalities only as compared to 100, 200 per day in the past. Of course, each fatality is sad news, of course. Each number is a human, it's a human being. So our hearts go out to the friends and family of those who have succumbed and passed away from COVID. So we see in general that the domestic infection rate has reduced now, as you see, 8,000 plus now, to lower than 10,000 for a few weeks. And the trend is on a downward trend in accordance with the global trend as well. So the alert nationally for Thailand has been lowered from level 4 to level 3. This, of course, a result of the good cooperation of the general public, all parties concerned, especially all of you. We hope that this trend will continue downward and the situation remains under our control. Nevertheless, it is advised that the elderly, those who are senior citizens, age 60 years and over, those who have 7 underlying diseases, those pregnant women, those who have not received the booster dose, for all of these people to continue refraining from going to crowded places and social gathering and activities, and to travel only when necessary, to keep wearing on this mask. It's like a part of our body right now, up to now. So and to follow, of course, hygienic pressures, and very importantly is get the booster jab, the 3rd or the 4th dose. In terms of the provincial distribution of cases, we have Bangkok as topping that list, followed by the provinces that you see on screen. Half-half, we have half which are green colored, which means that less than the previous day, and red more than the previous day. They're from Khon Kaen to mostly in the central and northeastern part of the country, with the top 10 COVID cases to date. So I'll move on to the vaccination progress. Look now, we've administered 167,579 doses of vaccine yesterday. The cumulative is now over 135 million doses since the beginning of last year. And you have the detail of that on screen. First dose is now covers over 81% of the entire population. Second dose, over 74%, and booster dose, 38.6% of the population. So that is why we have to stress once and again that the booster dose is very important. Our percentage of booster dose in the country is not that high yet. It is very crucial for the population in Thailand, whether you're a Thai citizen or not, to receive the booster dose by this time. Another point is about the vaccination of children up to 17 years old, 5 to 17 years old. We have a nice infographic there on screen for you. Since the start of the vaccination of children, 12 to 17, late last year, we have around over 77% now of children receiving their first dose. And you can see on screen, second dose over 75%, and the numbers there in the number of 3.5 plus million children. But for the younger age range, you see 5 to 11 years, since earlier this year, we have now over 53% of children in the younger range, up to 11 years old, receiving their first dose. So this effort still continues, very important. The measures have been put in place to monitor all children in Thailand if there are side effects after vaccination. The Public Health Ministry will continue to have the children vaccinated in time before the school year begins, the Thai school year begins. Of course, it's a challenge. We began the vaccination for children, of course, after adults. I mean, it was not that early. It was end of last year where the first age range, the schemes came out, and then earlier this year for the age range of 5 to 11. But I think this is something of a global trend. In the beginning of this pandemic, it was not clear yet, of course, about vaccination for children, about the necessity and the side effects and everything. But now, since there's more clarity, we'll try to speed up and vaccinate the highest number of children in the country right now. So for this time, we have English language briefings every Thursday, once a week, until further notice. But you can also, of course, follow the social media pages in English and in credible news outlets as well, the Public Relations Department as well, and the other news outlets for the various measures. It is very heartening to see the trend in Thailand getting better, a downward trend, and we hope that this will continue. And of course, a surge of more travelers in Thailand has to go in parallel with the continued commitment, the continued strict measures and sacrifice of all of us here in Thailand, be not only government officials and those responsible, but of course also foreign residents here and Thai nationals, everyone in all sectors of society. It's very important. We're on the way towards eradicating, hopefully, globally as well. Hopefully that will be the trend, and hopefully one day we'll come up to you and say that we've solved and overcome this pandemic, this crisis, once and for all. Hopefully this year or next year. Hopefully. So this is all I have for you today. Before closing, just to share some tips for anyone who is recovering from COVID-19. What do you call long COVID? As you know, long COVID-19. These are health rehabilitation guidelines to fully recover in 5 weeks, as you see on screen. And this is an infographic. It might be in small font, a bit too small on screen on television now, but you can find this on the Facebook and social media page of the Public Relations Department in English, PR Thailand on Facebook. So just to reiterate once again, please do all you can to continue to stay safe and healthy. We thank you very, very much for contributing to the upcoming eradication or the possible success that we all have in Thailand in eradicating COVID-19 for us in the months ahead and also globally. So thank you for your attention, and we'll see you again next week. สวัสดีครับ